All right, hey everybody, this is AkramRShaaban. I'm here with my cousins Vendel and versanaljarrah, and we're gonna hear speak about what is really going on right now. There's too much going on today, and let's start off from stablecoins. Stablecoins is really a big factor, especially what Ripple is doing. And Versan, let's go ahead with you. Stablecoins today, what do you think is going to affect the market right now as we see?
Of course. First of all, Akram, congratulations on your second episode. This is going to be fun. Fireside chat with Vandel. We're all family here, just so everybody else knows. But as far as stablecoins, I've been talking about this for 2, 3 years now, and I keep saying that stablecoins are probably the most important topic in this space that nobody was discussing for a very long time. And that's because stability is the very foundation of trust, of all trust in the system. Whether it's financial, social, or digital, you need stability. So for digital assets, stability is the most important thing. And I think the most commonly known stablecoin is Tether, which is pegged to the US dollar. Most people are familiar that Tether because it maintains that one-to-one ratio with the dollar, making it stable medium of exchange in the digital asset space, right? But the dollar itself is backed by debt, which is continuously expanding. So the foundation again introduces the inherent risks associated with Tether, for instance, and that's why we see Uphold going after Tether and everybody else. Compared to other stable coins, I think Circle is going to play a bigger role in the stable coin arena. Also that there's this growing need for hard assets to back stable coins, and I think this is the direction of where it's all going. Tangible physical assets backing these stable coins, and that kind of also balances the debt if they wanted to do that. But this is where the World Gold Council, their advocacy is continuous for gold-backed stable coins, because it's going to be significant. So I just think we're heading in that direction, and that's really as much information I have so far. So.
All right, yeah, you want to add anything on that, Vendel?
Yeah. Yeah, he's absolutely correct. What we're going to see is a lot of the uncompliant stable coins that are backed by thin air, kind of like the US dollar. So even if they're pegged 1-to-1, like Tether's pegged 1-to-1 with the US dollar, it's basically pegging nothing to nothing. So eventually anything that's full of air and nothing eventually pops and collapses. And pretty much that's what you're seeing with the traditional banking system tied to the US dollar. You're seeing that slow motion orchestrated collapse. Now, the same thing is going to apply to a digital version of that, which is a stable coin, USDT. And that's why Uphold just gave a notification to some Uphold users saying that they're going to delist quite a few stable coins. And they're going to allow still people to use USDC and another one as well. But you see, that's the first phase where some regulatory clarity is taking place behind the scenes and regulations are cracking down and slowly taking those stable coins off the table. And USDT was in there. And that's what Uphold is, they're going to remove it. And they already sent out notifications on that. But, stable coins, well, backed by gold, as we always speak about, for example, the BRICS, they're working on their currency. I believe it's going to be partially or fully backed by gold. And, when you have their currency backed by something, in this case, backed by gold, they don't have to work at maintaining its value because the gold would be doing the work of maintaining the value for it since they'll be backed by gold, the stable coins, or even the currency. But yeah, that's the way I see it unfolding. It's really difficult to pinpoint times and dates when these things are going to take place. But anybody who's been following us for a while knows that we've been saying this for over 3 years now. And now you're finally seeing it come into fruition. And again, this is just the beginning stages. There will be a point in time in the very near future where none of this crap will exist. 99% of cryptos or even more will go away because they're useless. They do nothing. And as Versan reiterates very often, they're just copycat technologies or pump and dumps. And that would be when utility will really drive the market and invite more liquidity into the market because of the utility, mainstream adoption, and demand. But by that point, Tether will be gone, and so will many other stable coins, and we're just seeing the first stages of that unfold.
Yeah. And not to mention, the digital asset XRP plays a big role in this because XRP again has that potential to support stablecoins through its through the technology and interoperability as well. So just the potential of all of this converging together is like certainly there. Also, this what we're talking about has been backed by numerous institutions, and all the research can easily confirm that XRP's subtlety for facilitating stablecoin transactions is there too. And I think just the move in general towards asset-backed stablecoins, I told you this already, particularly those leveraging XRP and Ripple's protocol, is just another positive development for everything we're talking about here in the digital asset space too. Oh, it also underscores the importance of interoperability and using these advanced technologies to build a stable and trustworthy financial system. It's like a good way to look at it.
From what I'm seeing right now, they're cleaning up the market. They're throwing everything out that is not really a real assets, and they're not complementing or helping solve any financial issues. They're just cleaning it off the table.
Baby steps, man.
Yes, yes, and from that they're slowly revealing what's behind the curtain, and it's scary, but it could be good, it could be bad. But from what we're seeing, it's escalating quickly as is going public to the world. But also ties in with like liquidity. What do you guys think? How stable coins will offer liquidity to the crypto market?
Yeah, well, I think that overall ties just back to how credit markets work and what's happening right now. And this is, again, the big question, like, why are all these transitions happening in the financial system? And it's because the global economy depends on credit. And that means borrowing and lending is important, right? That's the very foundation of the economy. And what's the driver of that is liquidity. So as global credit, what we're seeing in today's world, that global credit markets are drying up. And that's because the lack of liquidity is there. So it means borrowing and lending then becomes difficult. So basically, all that systemic risk associated with that can result in a lockup of the financial system, an ICE 9 scenario. So what I always tell people, and what the message we used to say, is that as liquidity continues to dry up worldwide, you're going to see that full adoption and utility of XRP's on-demand liquidity. Now, if XRP has the potential for stable coins, and there's that liquidity provision, that's one way to mitigate, let's say, the risk associated with a debt market bubble, right? People are saying that, this debt market crash is coming, and it is coming. That's what the research says. But for all we know, maybe they have a solution in place, and we believe they do have a solution where they have that liquidity provider, and there you go. You don't have a debt market bubble. Nothing happens, right? You kind of mitigate the risks and evolve into the new financial landscape. That's it. I think it's connected, but yeah.
Yeah, like because from my story, like we've a lot of people have made a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, and they can't pull out. There's no liquidity. So I mean, that's what we're all fighting for right now.
Well, liquidity is the driver of markets. It's like the oil, right? It's the grease.
Exactly, exactly. So that is really like crucial, and also like what you guys have when everything gets implemented and everything gets okay. This is the real dollar that everybody is going to be just financially just refreshed to a new digital asset, digital currency. How is that gonna be affecting the cost of living when it comes to those people who are going with the system, and they're not like understanding this new digital assets? And I mean, right now nobody knows what is CBDCs. So as the transitioning is happening, how is it going to affect their lives?
I mean, I'll let Vendel talk, but listen, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise in the background, right? You got to understand when you look at what's really going on here, you start to understand that they are creating these issues associated with inflation. What is inflation, right? It's just real. Inflation doesn't mean shit. The problem is that your purchasing power is going away, but people look to inflation as like the excuse, right? Without addressing the root causes because of inflation. What's happening today in the world is that there's that widening wealth gap. They are trying to impoverish people on a global scale to create the dependency for what they've done. They've weaponized the food industry, they've weaponized the monetary system, they've weaponized the pharmaceutical industry, and so forth, right? So they're creating a situation where you're going to need government. And that kind of ties us into the Cloward pivot strategy, breaking down all society from within. And that's what we see happening today. And they're going to have that digital solution in place. So that's the macro picture of what's going on here. As far as digital assets, there's going to be a wealth transfer. I think that a lot of people who are involved and invested into these technologies are going to benefit the most when all of this is transitions into place, right? So you want to be on the right side of things, and that's like hard assets and digital assets too. Because money doesn't just vanish, right? It moves from one set of assets to another. And what we're seeing now with everything changing in the world, it's this wealth transfer, we're kind of living through it right now. So inflation is not going to stop, in my opinion. It can't, because again, it's the purchasing power that's dying there, and that cannot be fixed.
Correct. And it'll be too late for people who don't know and who just keep holding on to cash, and they're not even have no idea about CBDCs and actual digital currencies. So it's gonna affect their lives, and it'll be, I don't know, they're gonna be breaking the wheel. Middle class won't last long.
The middle class doesn't exist, anyways.
Yeah. So when the Fed comes out and says prices are coming down, for example, Jerome Powell, he'll say that. He said it not too long ago. He comes out, he says prices are going down. I'm just going to give people some clarity. What he meant to say is the rate of inflation is coming down. That's what he meant to say, because first of all, even though the rate of inflation comes down, prices never go down. The rate of inflation is completely different from the cost of prices and goods. So what he meant to say is the rate of inflation is going down, not prices are going down. But I have to correct him even further more, because I was looking at the data, and actually inflation has been persistent and rising. It's actually not going down. So yes, that's completely false. They actually have a bunch of dummies running the show. Some of them are smart. That's mostly the bankers, okay? But the people in the White House, the administration, just a bunch of idiots running the show. They don't know what they're doing. I could probably replace Janet Yellen's job in a few days if I applied for it. And some other economists could easily do that too. But the thing is, she's a key figure because of her network. That's why she's in that position. But she's not qualified for that. A few others that are in positions, influential positions, they're not qualified. But back to what you were saying is the rate of inflation, actually, yes, it can come down. At the moment, it's not coming down, but prices are definitely not coming down. As a matter of fact, they're increasing as they continue to do what Versan said, spending, which starts from issuing debt. That actually means printing money. That's all it means, printing money. They issue debt, they borrow, and they spend. And the thing is, I said this earlier in our conversation, that's why I believe gold and specific digital assets are going to party like it's 1999 very soon. And the reason I was saying that is because the government, the feds, the Federal Reserve, the central banks, they respond to recessions and depressions in two ways, and these are their tools. So when the economy is pretty much a sinking ship, or it's in bad condition, it's going downhill, the Fed's response is typically to slash interest rates when we get to that point where it's a recession or a depression we're entering. So the first thing they do is they slash interest rates to help the economy. But at the same time, as they slash interest rates, they pump in liquidity into the system. So this is where the borrowing and spending starts like there's no tomorrow. And the thing is, this is why we also go to war, as I was saying. When the economy is failing, when it's falling apart, we go to war. And we do that to justify and to cover up the excessive money printing and spending. Now, to maintain, of course, our US dominance, sometimes it's the case of maintaining the world reserve currency status as the US dollar. But typically, when these movements happen and they make these changes, gold and digital assets love this scenario. And the reason is because during times like this, when they make those moves, cut interest rates, and pump liquidity in the system, asset prices go up. And I gave an example earlier that in 2008, the great financial crisis, okay, the Federal Reserve slashed rates from 4.75% in late 2007 to near zero rates by 2009. And you know what they did? They kept them there that low for about 6 years. And guess what? All central banks participated in this. They all slashed rates to near zero. And this was around 2008, 2009 they did that. And then this was basically your interest rate jubilee. That was the interest rate reset. They reset it to near zero. And what happened when they did that? This is when gold rose significantly. And asset owners got richer, of course. We know how that goes. If you own assets, you get richer. And most people who don't own assets, they get poorer and they feel the pain. So that's what happened. And I could see this as a roadmap. And that's why I believe studying the market cycles and history is so important if you really want to know where we are today and where we're going. Because history, it often rhymes and it does repeat itself to some extent.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, this is why you got to look at things from a bigger perspective,
I want
the
to
big
say
picture.
something. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Versal.
I'm just saying the big picture is very clear if you're paying attention, And again, talking about interest rates, and inflation, guys, like I'm so over it because I've addressed this so many times that it's not addressing the root cause of the discussion. It really isn't. So interest rates and terms like this are terms bankers created to make it sound complicated when it really isn't. They're robbing you. That's how simple it is. Okay. A central bank is a mafia. They just play their game and they continuously devalue the currency until there's nothing left. And again, when your currency is continuously being devalued, you have nothing left. And that's where the saying is own nothing and be happy comes from. The interesting thing is what I'm paying attention to is that these markets are ready to rock. They have been ready. We are supposed to be at the end of the accumulation phase, yet we're not seeing anything happen, right? Somebody is holding back a bull market. And I'll tell you why. I mentioned this a year ago. It's because they're trying to impoverish people first. And again, create a situation where you're forced to sell the assets that you can no longer afford to keep. And I think that's what's happening now. So again, looking at this from a big picture, it's really clear what's going on. There's a wealth transfer and a wealth gap divide. At the same time, you see a lot of divide and conquer strategy happening. And that's, again, the cloud pivot strategy. So looking at the bigger picture here, this is the reset of all things, including society and human behavior. I think artificial intelligence can certainly exemplify this, the divide in society. It's also creating a situation where people are losing their jobs. So it's just a crazy world we live in, But one thing I'll tell you right now is the bankers, guys, it's all nonsense. And I think the show is coming to an end. I think that's where we are. We're at the end of a global reserve currency cycle, and we're living through it, which is, phenomenal. In fact, very scary too.
Yeah.
Finally.
I did want to say something. I know you recently had some extreme success, Akram, with some of your investments in the crypto space. However, one of them, which we don't need to get into details, but faced a liquidity issue. And I think this could be a good lesson for anybody tuning in and following you and us and just watching in general. for any crypto investors or people investing in digital assets. So we were talking about liquidity earlier. Now, it's important to, if you're going to make the investments in crypto or digital assets, make sure that it has sufficient and enough liquidity. And the reason is, just to sum it up, if you want to sell, you need liquidity, or you're not going to be able to cash out. And the thing is, you could be a multimillionaire or even a billionaire, like one of my friends, on paper, but he couldn't sell. So if you're wealthy and rich on paper, it really means you're not. You're not wealthy at all until you can actually cash out those funds. So it's just on paper. And I just want to emphasize that liquidity is crucial, because when you're buying cryptocurrencies, and if there's liquidity, it ensures that you can execute the transactions quickly and at a stable price too. And the thing is, high liquidity basically means that there are ample buyers and sellers on both sides of the spectrum, so that you can facilitate like smooth trades without, extreme price fluctuations. And conversely, if there's no liquidity or low liquidity, that can lead to price slippage, which I know you crypto investors and traders know what that means, but it basically makes it very difficult to execute a trade at an expected price. And it may even render you unable to sell your crypto or your digital assets, especially in a declining market, which is actually going to take place after the peak of the bull run. The market will decline. So, I mean, this increases the risk of substantial financial loss and exposes the market to manipulation, where, large trades can like disproportionately affect prices, and therefore adequate liquidity is the key. It's essential. And the interesting thing is, a lot of the tokens we talk about are extremely liquid. Actually, two of them, XRP and XLM, are liquidity tokens. They are designed for liquidity. A lot of the other assets we own are extremely liquid too. As a matter of fact, our exchange that we personally use, called Caleb and Brown, we've spoke to our brokers and to the people running the company, and we asked them about the criteria that needs to be met before they list any crypto on their exchange. And one of the main ones on their agenda is liquidity. So if a cryptocurrency is not listed on Caleb and Brown, it's because they could not discover or find enough liquidity for that specific asset at the time. But if anything is on there, it means they have plenty of access to liquidity from various sources. But the point I'm trying to make is, make sure there's ample liquidity and, trading volume, and just pay attention to that. But again, we use Caleb and Brown, great exchange. They also assign you a personal broker, 24/7 customer support. And it's good to have an account with them, just in case the time comes and you need to sell. You don't want to have your account frozen, technical issues on a platform, because of trading volume or just technicalities. Just something to keep in mind. But yeah, Akram, liquidity is important.
Correct. Yeah, because when I first invested in it, I don't want to name the crypto, but it was shocking. I had Sun and Wolf syndrome for a moment, and
Of course,
then
it's normal.
yeah, and then I was about to sell it. I was like, "Wait, what's going on here?" But I never like went crazy. Normally, a person who's not really like personality is really strong would lose their minds. Probably like they would go outraged. But for me, I was just laughing. It was like, okay, fine, it's all right. But it was kind of like a message, like what I'm doing is right on the path. I'm on the right path. All I just need to do, just keep trying, and one day I'll cash out. We're all cash out. Inshallah. But other
Cash
than
out
that,
into
like,
what? Cash out into dollars, and then you cash out into dollars, and the dollar ain't worth anything.
I mean, no, I mean,
If
of
you,
course.
if you cash out into dollars, you want to move that. Remember, cash is a tool
Yes,
to move
you
from
move.
one asset to
Yes,
another.
of
You
course.
move
That's how
into
you should
hard
use it.
assets right away.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Yeah,
my
It's a
point
tool.
though is that If you're going to be
Yeah.
cashing out, do not hold into dollars. You don't want fiat currency.
Versan
Again.
going to cash.
Yeah, if you're just cashing out,
No, I
you're
would
gonna
never go to
be
cash. I'm saying go to
Yeah,
cash.
I know, I
To
know.
get into something hard asset before they
Exactly.
realize the cash ain't worth shit.
Yeah, exactly.
well, what I was trying to say is that if you're just cashing out, then you'll be crashing out. You need to
Correct.
cash out and then move into another asset class, as Versan said.
Yes.
Just use it as a tool to move around.
If you
correct.
if you cash, you crash,
But
right?
at the end of the day, you still need cash because, for example, in 2013, when the IMF stepped in to bail out Cyprus from their financial crisis, the people in the city that could buy stuff was the people that had cash. Okay, so I don't care what's happening with the cash. I still have cash, and I recommend
Yep.
people have cash because at the end of the day, cash, till today, until the whole system collapses, till today, cash can buy you assets, cash pays your bills, cash buys you food, and it buys you experiences. Okay, you can't book an airplane ticket with a lump of gold. All right, you keep that for wealth preservation, but you still need cash because if something happens to the system, which it will, there will be a period of time where people only know what cash is. So if they're going to accept anything for that period of time, the probability from a statistical standpoint is there would be a high probability they'll accept cash. Primarily $5 bills, $20 bills, and 50 at the highest. But you want to have some cash on hand. And that's called a small emergency fund in case something happens. And you don't want to have it all in the bank. I'm talking about cash in your home, in a safe, somewhere stored safely. Just a small portion.
Yeah,
know?
diversify your portfolio. That's correct. You want to have some
Right.
cash because it will run as king until I think things unfold, you know.
Well, gentlemen,
Yes.
any last thoughts before I step off? I do have to step off for this evening.
Oh no, of course. I mean, if Versan has anything, but no, Vendel, thank you for your time. Really, like I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Hopping
brother,
on here.
Habibi, anytime. I'm
Yeah.
happy
Works.
to be here with
Let's
both
do
of
this
you.
earlier next time. I thought we were going to do this on Thursday.
Oh yeah, but we make it earlier. People
Yeah.
people need our presence. You know, you want to
Yes,
share
and
our
Versan
wisdom.
needs rest also. You know?
Ah yes. Of course.
Yes, and our presence is a
rest.
gift. Okay, so everybody, thank you for tuning in. I will be back in the very near future. Until then, yes, keep cash.
All right.
Signing
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, Vendel, take care.
Yalla.